Hi, and welcome to episode 10 of SIFTD HQ. Someone on the site this week described the show as the loot crate of video game TV shows. I agree with that 100%. So you never know what you're going to get in this show, and episode 10 is no exception. Hey everyone, welcome to Closet Raiders, where I literally dig through my closet to share some of the coolest stuff I've collected in my 20 plus years working in the games industry. This show has covered a lot of swag in prior entries. We've also touched on hardware at least one time, and we're gonna do that again today. So last time I talked about the PSP, showed the huge bulk of games that I have collected for the PSP over the years, but today it's Nintendo's turn. And specifically, I'm going to talk about older Nintendo handhelds. So we're gonna go back to the Game Boy Advance, and we're gonna tackle the DS. I have cool stuff for both. So let's just take it chronologically, and we'll start with the Nintendo Game Boy Advance first. So my goodie bag here. So as you guys know, the Game Boy Advance went through several iterations. This was the one people ultimately ended up settling on. This is a Game Boy Advance SP. It has a clamshell design. If you remember, the original version of it did not have a clamshell, it just had a screen, and you had to buy cases to make sure the screen wouldn't get scratched, so this fixed a lot of problems. So when this came out, I went to Japan, and at that time of my life, I was still delusional, and I really thought that I could get my wife. At that point, I think she was just my girlfriend, she wasn't my wife, but I really thought that I could get her into video games. So every time I would go to Japan, I would go to the Pokemon Center store in Tokyo, and I would get her something, hoping that it would get her to like games. The first thing I did, the first piece of hardware that I got for her was this. And this is a Game Boy Advance SP. So you can see the difference in packaging from here's US, here's Japan. So much more compact. They don't waste as much materials in Japan. So once they came out, I went to Japan, and at the time they didn't have many colors in the US at all. And I went to Japan and they had a bunch of new colors that weren't in the US. So I got my wife this pink pearl Game Boy Advance SP. Let's take a look at it. So like I said, in Japan, the packaging is always different. This is just like a little cube. Of course, they put out the huge box in the US. Let's crack it open. Somehow, they managed to fit everything you need into this little box instead of wasting so much paper and cardboard. So here you go. Here is my wife's Game Boy Advance SP from the Pokemon Center in Japan. If you open it up, it's got gray buttons, gray D-pad. No special markings to denote that this is from the Pokemon Center, which is rare for anything that you buy from there. Usually it'll have branding on it. But maybe they did that because they knew in the West that eventually they were going to release this color and it wasn't going to be a Pokemon Center exclusive for very long. So like I said, eventually they ended up releasing the pink version of the GBA SP in the US, and so the value of what I bought for my wife plummeted. However, let's roll back in time a little bit to a year before that when I went to Japan, and the Game Boy Advance was only available in its original form. Well, once again, I waltzed over to the Pokemon Center and I got myself this. So this is the Game Boy Advance base model, the launch model, but it is the Suicune version of the Game Boy Advance. Again, only available at the Pokemon Center in Japan. You could not buy this anywhere else. This thing is ultra rare. Let's open it up. So when I went to the Pokemon Center to get this GBA, there were actually two versions of this. Well, kind of. There were two different takes that you could buy that were on sale at the same exact time. There was this one, the Suicune, and then there was also one for Celebi. The one for Celebi is like a more traditional green. This is kind of a bluish green color. You'll see it when I take it out. It's kind of hard to see. Hopefully it works on camera. But the Celebi version of this is worth at least as much as this one, and in some cases a little bit more. So let's open this up. I'm just telling you, I've opened this one time ever. It's never had batteries in it. It's never had a cartridge in it. It's never been used. I knew when I bought this that someday it was going to be worth money. So as soon as I got it, I came home from Japan and I just put it in a cabinet and I left it there. So everything is in immaculate shape. The box is brand new. There is a very slight crease I saw earlier on the box, which could hurt its value a little bit, but honestly, I don't know what else I could have done to take care of this. It is in immaculate condition. So put the box there, pull it out of its little sleeve here. Now at first glance, this actually almost looks like it's purple. It has a very like almost iridescent look to it. So when you hold it at different angles, it actually kind of looks like a different color. Now look at on this monitor here, it almost looks like it's gray, but it's not. I don't know if I can get the light to hit it right. So you can see that it's like this crazy bluish purple that you only pick up on when you put it in the right light. Now you can see there's some differences here. The bottom of the screen has Pokemon at the bottom of it. If you flip it over on the back, you can see right there it says Pokemon Center. And that's obviously very important for the value of this handheld. Again, nothing has ever been in the battery compartment of this. It is still brand new, never used, and I will not use it. So in fact, after I put it back in its box, after I'm done with this for Closet Raiders, I probably will not see this thing again for several years. But anyway, I love this GBA. It's my favorite one that I've ever seen. My launch unit was like that kind of see-through incandescent purple one, and I kept using that after I got this because I did not want to decrease the value of this one from the Pokemon Center. So I'm very proud of this. It's one of my favorite things in my gaming collection, and it does appear that it is valued a great deal since I purchased it, which makes me very, very happy. So I said when we started that I wasn't going to just stick with one platform, that we were going to move to a newer one, and that is the last thing I have to show you guys today. And it is a Nintendo DS, and the Suicune GBA, really rare, worth around like 500 bucks. This is the Holy Grail. This is the Mew Pokemon Center Nintendo DS. Now again, this is the original version of the DS with the really clunky form factor. But again, the best that I can tell from doing research, there were less than 10,000 of these made. Let's open it up and let's take a look at it. All right, now I will say this, I did buy this for my wife. This is my wife's crazy high value Nintendo DS. I brought it back for her. She took it out of the packaging, put it in a Ziploc, and then hardly ever used it. And so a long time ago, I went and rescued it from the Ziploc and put it back in its original packaging. Again, this has been open maybe twice since I purchased it in Japan at the Pokemon Center. My wife did it the first time, and now I did it a second time to make sure everything was all good before I came in to show it to you guys. So as you can see, still have all the original packaging and inserts, all still in plastic, all still in immaculate condition. Let's pull this bad boy out of here and have a look at it. So again, you know, this was for my wife. It is pink. It is a pink Nintendo DS. And again, it looks like it's almost silver on the camera as I'm looking at it right now. Now here's the thing. There are very subtle screen printings on this. I'm gonna try to get it up to the camera closely so you guys can see it. I'm gonna move it in the light. Can you see? It's almost like a lithograph of Mew on the front there. It's really hard to catch. You guys might be able to catch it if the lighting is exactly right. Let's open this thing up. So it has white buttons, a white D-pad. It also came with a white stylus and an extra white stylus as well. Not such a big deal now, but back when this came out, getting anything but a black stylus was really hard, and you could really only get them in Japan. So like the front cover, there's also kind of a lasered image of Mew here on the inside. It's right there. It's really hard to see. And I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't buy pink anything, to be honest with you, but this is very subtle. Almost like the GBA I just showed you. You have to like kind of see it in the exact right light before it looks pink. Otherwise, it just kind of looks gray. But this thing is in immaculate condition. It's brand new. You can see there's the Pokemon Center label I was talking about. So right now on eBay, people are asking about $600 for this Nintendo DS. I haven't seen any that sold for that much, but that's what people are asking for them. So definitely one of the highest valued handhelds I own.
Welcome to Turned Up Tuesday, the only show that gives you the best games, albums, movies, and TV shows of the week. May is looking like a slow month for game releases, so if you find something you like this week, take the plunge. If you're sick of setting the kitchen on fire and overcooked, moving out is a much safer alternative. Moving people's items into a truck may sound simple, but its crazy physics makes even the simplest tasks a challenge. Work through the madness either solo or with friends on all major consoles today. Sakura Wars is one of those Japanese franchises that rarely come to the West, but this reboot most definitely is.
A cross between JRPG and dating sim, the combat is being overhauled to a more action-based system. It's also got solid reviews from Famitsu when it was released in Japan last December. If you've passed on Final Fantasy VII or Trials of Mana remakes, this will fill the hole nicely when it's released today for PS4.
The gaming world was blindsided when XCOM Chimera Squad was announced last week, and now it's here. In this side story to the XCOM saga, you team up with aliens to stop a subterranean threat. Each soldier has its own unique ability, but be careful, if they fall in the heat of battle, they're not coming back. Offering a new breach mode, a reworked turn-based system, and plenty of city management tweaks, it offers plenty to hardcore fans. Save City 31 on Friday for PC and for just $10. The thing is, there's a much more anticipated and expensive game in the same genre launching today. That game is Gears Tactics.
It's essentially XCOM set in the Gears universe, and it's a fully priced game. It also has the presentation of a fully priced game. Upgrading your gear and skills are just as important as mastering the intense, fast-paced, turn-based battles against some gargantuan creatures. With a familiar setting and characters, this could end up being an entry point to the genre for many, and it's available for PC right now with an Xbox One version coming later this year.
Friedrich Nietzsche once said that life without music is a mistake. Turned Up Tuesday's here to make sure that doesn't happen. It's rare to come across alternative bands with trained vocalists, but Astra's lead singer sounds like she could slide right into a choir. Don't get us wrong, their new album Hyridin is more like Purity Ring than a trip to church. There's no autotune or overdubs in these tracks. Bucking the trend of overproduced electronic albums, these songs survive on writing and arrangement. If you're a fan of Beck, you've probably burnt out on his album from last year by now.
The good news is that Car Seat Headrest is a dead ringer for the indie superstar, and they have a new album called Making a Door Less Open that launches Friday. Just like Beck, their songs are eclectic and run the gambit of genres, but they all have that laid-back, lazy tone with haphazard vocals. They may be a facsimile, but they're a good one.
We always like to give you at least something a little more mainstream each week, and this week's pick is Man Man. This traditional rock group is heavy on piano and horns, which gives us a distinct Billy Joel vibe. Their songs are lighthearted and fun, which is something we all could use right now. Chase away the quarantine blues when Dream Hunting in the Valley of the In-Between launches on Friday. Movie theaters continue to be a lost cause, but the boob tube has at least a couple options this week. HBO is on quite a run right now as we've hit a sweet spot in its production schedule from a year or two ago. The first episode of Season 5 of Billions releases on Sunday, and there are 11 more after that. Dig into the underbelly of New York high finance, politics, and power with a standout performance from Dan Soder you have to see to believe. Watching all 4 previous seasons by Friday might be a stretch, but what else do you have to do? The Mandalorian on Disney Plus has been unanimously praised by critics and viewers. Now you can go behind the scenes with Disney Gallery The Mandalorian. It's an 8-episode docuseries exploring the first season with the actors, directors, writers, and producers that made it happen. It's currently the most expensive TV show to produce, so this is sure to be an eye-opening event. Get some more value out of that monthly subscription when it launches this coming Monday.
Hi, I'm Shane Satterfield for SIFTD News, and this is The Big Six, the 6 biggest news stories in gaming for the week ending April 28th, 2020. It wouldn't be an episode of The Big Six without a story on The Last of Us Part 2, and boy, this week, do we have a doozy. The game's entire plot has been leaked online, along with video of pivotal cinematics and plenty of other details. Rumor has it the leak was courtesy of a disgruntled former employee, but it has not been confirmed. The story comes on the heels of multiple scathing articles on the company's work culture from Kotaku. The game's new release date was also announced as June 19th, 2020. Ghost of Tsushima's new release date is July 17th, 2020. The world is in complete chaos right now with the coronavirus pandemic, but the video game industry is thriving. The NPD report for March 2020 has been released, and it's the best March for the industry since 2008. Nintendo Switch hardware sales doubled year over year, while Animal Crossing New Horizons is one of Nintendo's best-selling games ever. The good times have carried over to both PS4 and Xbox One, as they also saw 25% year-over-year increases. The Resident Evil 3 remake debuts in the 4th slot, while Doom Eternal makes its debut on the charts at 6th. It won't be long until we get our first look at the new Call of Duty. Activision Blizzard usually debuts the next entry in May, but details have already begun to leak. An initial report from the Gaming Revolution has been backed up by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. It states that the next game will be called Call of Duty Vietnam, and while it won't carry the Black Ops name, it's set in the same universe. Reports from last year suggested the next Call of Duty was facing development struggles, and Black Ops developer Treyarch was called in to save the project. This news seems to support that reporting. The release dates for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are still up in the air, and that has caused some publishers to create contingency plans. This week, Ubisoft announced that if the next-gen consoles are delayed, that it's prepared to also delay several of its games. This is important for several reasons. First, it means that the publisher is planning on cross-generation releases for its biggest games. Second, many of its high-profile games aren't coming anytime soon. And lastly, Ubisoft is privy to internal information from Sony and Microsoft. It could mean that both consoles are currently in danger of being delayed. E3 2020 is canceled, but that hasn't stopped Games Radar and IGN from creating replacements. Both publications will hold separate events that will include new trailers, gameplay demos, game announcements, and much more. With two outlets trying to fill the same void, competition for content will be fierce. Both events are scheduled for June, but there are no hard dates. It's been a crazy week for video game leaks, and few are as big as Horizon Zero Dawn 2. We've reported on rumors surrounding this game before in the Big Six, but this week things have become clearer. Publication VGC is reporting that the highly anticipated sequel began life as a PlayStation 4 game, but will now be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. The report also states that it will have online cooperative play, and a full trilogy is planned. That's it for the Big Six, the 6 biggest news stories in gaming for the week ending April 28th, 2020. I'm Shane Satterfield for SIFTD News, and I'll see you next week.
Welcome back to Noobs, where we pick the most important new games that are announced each week. Mars is the next most popular setting in video games besides Earth, but with Mars Horizon, the goal is just to get there. In this simulation, you take control of a space program in the 50s and try to lead it to the Red Planet decades later. You must build bases, design rockets, and conduct missions in the vast reaches of space. You also have to train your crew to make sure they don't make any fatal mistakes. Hopefully Houston won't have a problem when it releases for all major platforms this summer. Parody video games are extremely rare, but when we do get them, they can be a lot of fun. Mass Effect is the target for Minimal Effect, a comedic cel-shaded action RPG that follows the crew of the Star Alliance Balding Eagle on its first mission. You'll have to wait until next year to use its cover-based combat to save the galaxy. Hopefully you can get your laughs elsewhere until then. Peaky Blinders is a massive hit for Netflix and the BBC, and now it's coming to video games with Peaky Blinders Mastermind. The show follows an English street gang, and this puzzle adventure game has you taking control of key members and time itself to pull off heists across the city. Each character has their own unique abilities, and you'll have plenty of time to research with your Netflix account before it releases this summer for all major platforms. First-person games always work best with VR, but usually we get shooters or walking simulators. That all changes with Breath of the Witch. This first-person Metroidvania has you exploring a spooky castle, finding keys and new abilities to unlock its secrets and pathways. Using a mix of melee combat and magic, the enemy should keep you on your toes when it's released on an undisclosed date for all major HMDs.
東京2020オリンピックは今から始まる。 それスイッチ？
セガだよ。
それサングラス？
セガだよ。
それリュック？
セガだよ。
ちょっとしたものですか。あ、エスプラスだ。
来い。音。いや。セガを極めろ。
セガ。
じゃあな。
こうじゃなきゃ。
That's it for episode 10 of SIFTD HQ, the show we produce pretty much 100% here in our studio in West Los Angeles. And without people like you, it wouldn't be possible. We'll see you next week.